Good evening. Welcome to the Wellesley Free Library. I have been staring at this dress for the past hour and a half, and I just love it. My name is Kathy. As always, there is information about the library and our upcoming programs on the table to your right. Our guests this evening have brought a beautiful book with them. If you haven't had a chance to look at it, please do so, and there'll be a signing after we are done with the discussion tonight. As always, we'd like to hear your thoughts and comments about our program, so I do have some very brief feedback forms on the table. If you could fill them out on your way out, I'd love that. And if you would like to sign up for our monthly newsletter, that sign-up sheet is on the table as well. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce tonight's guests. Renowned fashion designer Sandra Celli creates jaw-dropping couture for clients all over the globe and for her television program, My Big Fat American Gypsy Wedding. Former television producer T.C. Farah has worked on talk shows, live event productions, and awards specials. This evening, they've joined us to chat about their recently published book, Bling, The Uncommon Crystal Couture World of Sandra Celli. So let's take a peek at this short video and then join me in welcoming Sandra and TC.
It don't mean a thing if it ain't got that bling. Bling looks awesome. It sparkles and shines. OMG. It's so easy to dress a dog because they don't talk. I love it. They're my favorite customers. And you get hooks and kisses when you're on them. It's adorable.
Oh, Jeanette, it's gorgeous. This is every little girl's dream. Awesome. You're the best. You want us to bling toilet paper?
I don't know. I think I've heard it all now.
You like Cinderella? Yeah. Like Cinderella, when you go home and go to sleep, all the little birdies and the elves are going to come here at night and they're going to decorate your dress.
I have a great group of girls we call the Blingettes.
Oh my God.
Yes, glue.
The girls actually put the stones onto the dresses.
We're definitely the last step, and it's a lot of pressure because we put glue on these already expensive clothes. Like if you put glue in the wrong spot, it's done.
I don't want you chopping off your fingies. My whole life I've loved glitter and bling. Like if I was a kid and I saw myself doing this in the future, I would be so happy. I'd be like so excited.
The girls all went to design school and they all have their own style. Some girls are better at applying design onto the fabric. Some girls are better with little stones. I dole it out to whatever girl I think can handle that project.
Sometimes Sandy can be a little bit tough.
And what do you want done with the shoes?
Fade this, do these to match, fade this, pack the heel. It's done.
All right.
She's constantly coming by and like looking over our shoulder, like making sure it's right. And it's a little bit intimidating.
It's great because they're young and I have their opinions.
It's a good environment. We're all friends.
My kids are cool. They're real hip.
Oh my God.
As you girls would say, they're sick. This is gonna be real fun. This drag queen came. His name is Adam, and he does a show. He wants a gown with a slit up the leg, with a sexy, sexy fitting.
Oh, nice.
I'm thinking if we built real peacock feathers into it all the way, and do like a big peacock collar, and then do a hairpiece that's all peacock feathers.
Perfect.
He does this big show. You guys, if you want to go, I could find out when it is. Sounds like fun. Yeah, we can all go. It's so fun. I know, it'll be fun.
All right, well, we got a deadline to meet, so go.
Hi! Dorothy, go ahead.
All right.
Crystal shoes coming up. Oh, and I forgot the fascinator. Something minor.
Oh, shit.
Adam almost passed out over those shoes.
I'm glad she had me sit down because I almost hit the floor.
So do you want to go?
Yes, I have to get padded.
I've got boobs. If you have your own boobs, that's great too. If not, you can use your boobs and my boobs together. Oh, I love it.
I want to make babies with you.
All right, now stop looking at yourself. Get it off. I gotta put stones all over it. Fast, fast.
Okay.
Thank you.
I am worried that it's not going to be tight enough at all.
You want me to take out another inch in the back?
Yep.
Well, when you make it too tight, what happens is all your flesh falls over the top.
I'd rather be able to cinch it tighter.
I'm here to please, and I'm just going to cinch it up. Hi! Look who's excited. You going to jump up and down? No, we'll go put it on. We'll surprise Mommy. Come on.
It's perfect. It's so perfect.
Charlotte even came over and gave me a hug. How cute is that? I made this little girl her dream dress.
Thank you.
Thanks for making it look so good. Are you crying happy, I hope?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. Before we start, I just want to thank Elise McLennan and Kathy Betcher for setting this up tonight. We're promoting our book, Bling, the Uncommon Crystal Couture World of Sandra Celli. And as a former television producer, I'm normally behind the scenes. I'm sitting in to be the actual interviewer tonight. So we're going to tell you a little bit of something about our book. And I've worked with Sandy for about 6 years now. And I don't think you've ever once turned down a job ever, no matter how difficult or unusual. So I'm going to mention a few of the jobs that you've done, and if you could just speak briefly about each one of them. These are some of the more stranger orders. The genuinely sweet Sweet 16 party dress.
Oh, we made the whole dress out of candy. So she wanted a dress with candy, so the other thing we did was when we were sewing it up, I bought, what do they call the white paper strips with the dots, the candy dots, whatever. So I started doing that, and then I said it'd be so cool if we sewed bubble gum into the ruffles, and we really got into it. So then I went into New York and I found a little bubble gum machine. We made her a headpiece with a bubble gum machine on the top and candy canes. I mean, it really came out good. And then they called me up and they said her name is Yazzie. Does that not sound like the candy girl? I mean, her name was perfect. Yazzie. It sounds like a candy. So it was perfect. So we did made all her shoes out of jelly beans. The whole shoe was jelly beans. It was so cute.
It was
Yeah, it was
extraordinary.
cute. Yeah, it was really cute.
The lobster pageant dress for Miss Maine.
Oh, Miss Maine was in the Miss America pageant, and they do us the Show Your Shoes parade. So we had to make shoes with a lighthouse and lobsters on them and everything, because the main thing with that parade is they take their shoe off and they show it. Actually, the shoe is still in Atlantic City. It's in one of the showcases. So we made the whole dress. She needed a gown, but it had to be a serious gown, but a theme. So I made a red serious gown, but the whole train was a lobster tail with, fishnets and clam shells, and I mean, it was all crystal. It was pretty, believe it or not, but it had this amazing tail in the back.
The Scarlett O'Hara Halloween costume for a 6-year-old.
Oh, I make so many. I had one Scarlett O'Hara that was 7 months.
Oh, okay.
That was insane with the big hat and the feathers. And I mean, they'll send me pictures, the Gypsies, and then they'll just tell us, knock this off of Hollywood or whatever. And the kid will be 6 months, and it's all a woman. And I'm like, okay, we can scale it down, but we do.
You had mentioned this in the video, the Crystal Monaghan toilet paper. What was that about?
That was the craziest one yet. So these Gypsies call up and they said, we're having a house opening, so we want the toilet paper rhinestone, so when people walk into the bathroom, it has our monogram on it. So I thought it was for the holder. She says, no, it's for the first piece of toilet paper. So I said, well, that's crazy. No one's going to want to pee. Everyone's going to say, I don't want to touch it. It's like crazy. I don't want to rip off the crystal. So I said, if you want to flush your money down the toilet, I will gladly take it.
So Sandy has actually been in the industry for many decades.
Yeah, a long time.
And as I watch you, what you do, take us through the creative process, because I literally come in the morning and I will see a bunch of fabric, lots of crystal there. There's no sketch pad, no notes, whatever, but it all evolves from here. And at the end of the day, this form, something like this will, happen. How does that work?
I can draw and I can make patterns and whatever. I'm better free.
you know, if you give me fabric and I throw it on the table and I think about what it could be and what I could do, and then there's a money thing involved. I mean, some people want to pay $600, some people want to pay $6,000, so you gotta juggle into what the project is or whatever, but it just evolves. I mean, I have 2 seamstresses. I have other girls too, but I mean that are really top girls that work with me, and I'll come up with something and they have an idea too, so we all powwow, but it's my ultimate decision too because of money. It's got to land a certain way, and then it goes into crystal girls. Once we have a bodice or a skirt or whatever, we'll give it to girls that do crystal work, and then they'll ask me, and I'll say, well, I want the crystal here and I want the crystal there, and it can't run over $5,000. This customer doesn't want to pay more, and you know, it evolves. Everything evolves every day. This dress was made in one day with 8 girls. Because what I did was, because I had no time, I divided the skirt into 4. 4 girls made 4 panels. Then at the end of the day, somebody connected them all. So it looks like one skirt, but it was made in sections. One was making the petticoat, one was making the hoop, and somebody was making the bodice, and I had girls splitting the rhinestones. So they would give the panels to the girls, they'd rhinestone them, hand them back to her, give her the bodice, hand it back to her. And then someone's doing the shoes, and someone's doing the jewelry, and whatever. I mean, we can do it in a day, but you need 8, 9 girls manpower to do it, because it's a lot of work.
One other a design that you've been working for a number of years with the New England Patriots cheerleaders. They actually tracked you down and asked you to.
Yeah, they're the first. We have the first NFL team with Swarovski crystal. I'm sure there are teams out there with other crystal, but our girls have the best. So we've been working for the Patriots cheerleaders now for about 4 years. The first uniform we did was really cute. It was like a top and a bottom, but then the last season, you know, they have a budget that it all has to fit into. So I came up with 2 different tops with 1 bottom, so the uniforms would look different all the time. So it fit in their budget, and that worked out. But they have the logo on the cuffs or on the wristbands or whatever. They have it on the shorts. So there's about 5 logos on each uniform, and there's thousands of I mean, they're all put on one by one by one by one by one. So the girls will have to do, say, 75 or 85 of those, depending on how many girls there are that season. And they're fine when they get to like the 5th head. They're like, I don't want to do this anymore, you know. So we break it up over a few weeks because it's just too monotonous to keep doing that over and over again.
And recently they called you because they wanted the girls to glow in the dark. What was that?
Oh, that was September 8th. That was their first opening game with the Pittsburgh Steelers. We lit up their costumes with electric lights this year.
Which is pretty amazing.
Really, it really came. And they added 2 guys this year, so that was cool too. So we had to do the guys' shirts too.
So Sandy works with things outside of the norm. She's worked with living fluff, roses, candy, electric lights. She can do anything.
Yeah, we've made dresses out of fresh flowers, yeah, anything.
And it was interesting because the woman who is the director of the New England Patriot Cheerleaders found Sandy through the show that she's featured on. A lot of her designs are featured on, is the hit series on TLC called My Big Fat American Gypsy Wedding, which is run internationally. So we have a huge international following, or Sandy does with their fan base. And so tell us a little bit about working on that reality show.
Well, the show's in 93 countries, and this is a big college state. So people will drop their kids off at school and they'll ring the doorbell, and they'll be from Germany or from Honduras or, countries I didn't even know it was playing in. Honestly. And it's fun to be on the show, but it's stressful because we still have customers' dresses that are due, and I can't just stop and say, hey, I'm doing a TV show this week. They have deadlines. So I just throw a battery pack on and do the show, and when the show is filming other things, other scenes or whatever that don't involve me, I run in the other room, and my girls behind the scenes are making somebody else's dress that's due by Friday, and then I put the battery pack back on, I go in and I do that scene, and I leave. The first season I did it, of course, like anybody, I was a newbie, and I was scared, and I didn't know, and now I'm just so used to it, I just do both at once. But you got customers, I need a living, and the show pays, but it's not gonna, what happens when the show's over? I'm gonna have a business, I still gotta keep my customers, so.
So, and talk about your Gypsy clientele. They're crazy about bling, and they normally want everything packed from a wedding gown to a communion dress to a baptism dress? What is the connection, the fascination that they have?
Well,
Yeah.
first of all, I mostly sell Irish travelers, which are not on the show. They're very religious Irish Catholic. They're super, super into communion and anything, religious holidays or whatever, anything, or sacraments. So the big thing with gypsies is that their bragging rights are whoever has the most bling wins. So we brag. We say our kids went to Harvard, our kids went here. This is their way of bragging. Whoever has the most bling wins, and that's how it is, because their kids don't go to college and their kids, don't have homes. And I shouldn't say they don't have fancy cars, because they do, but a lot of them live in double wides or whatever, but that's their bragging rights, is whoever has the most bling. And that's why everything is so packed in crystal.
Generally, a lot of people ask this. We get this question quite a bit. How much does a gypsy wedding gown cost? And take us through the process of actually creating one.
Oh, a gypsy wedding gown can cost $8,000. It can cost $20,000. Do they pay in payments? Yes. I mean, sometimes it's a year away, and they'll say, like right now, I have communion April 13th, so they've been buying them since July, and they pay in payments because they want these insane dresses covered in crystal. So obviously they don't have all that money at once. So while the men are working every week, they'll send $200 and $500, and I have to keep, writing it down. It's a pain for me because I have all these charts. And they pay by credit card because they live in another state. Most of them live in Augusta, Georgia, North Augusta, South Carolina, and Memphis, Tennessee. That's the bulk of my travelers. The rest of them live in Oklahoma, Missouri, Nebraska, or whatever. But I have a lot. I mean, there's thousands of them. So it's, I can do wedding dresses in thousands. I mean, people say, where do they get the money? I mean, they work. I mean, they work crazy hours, to try to pay for they're big on their kids. They want their kids to have the best. It's a real big deal. Whoever's kid has the most means the husbands can make money. Like, it proves he's worth something. It's a big deal. It sounds crazy, but that's their lifestyle.
And one of the most amazing things I've ever seen is an ensemble you put together when a gypsy mother-to-be, goes into the hospital, has the baby, and how they decorate the hospital room.
Oh, yeah, we decorate the whole hospital room. It's mind-blowing. I mean, they will buy robes, pajamas for 3 days, because most of them have C-sections because they're so young. They'll buy 3 days' worth of pajamas and robes with crystal on them, and then we do the sign for the back. Like, they don't want to see the equipment in the room, so they'll pay us to cover the equipment with big signs with the baby's name in crystal, rocking horses that we ship that are crystal, lamps, frames to put people's pictures. I mean, they literally buy anything you could think of. The carpet is handmade. Everything is brought into the hospital room in a truck. They rent a U-Haul and they drive it to the hospital room, decorate the whole room while the girl's having the baby. And then they send makeup and hair people to the hospital. So the girl has the baby, and within like 2 hours, she's got her hair all done, and they took all these pictures to put on Instagram. It's nuts. It's insane.
And there's always a theme.
Yeah, they have a theme. Yeah, they have a theme. We had one kid named, like where they work, so we had a kid named Jim Thomas Houston because his father makes his money in Houston. So the whole room had to be cowboys and,
Oil rigs.
Yeah, oil rigs, all in stones. We had oil rigs that were posters that were all done in crystal. I mean, it's a whole different world, and I'm just used to it. I guess I'm oblivious to it, but I mean, most people come in and they're like, this is for a hospital? Yeah, it's rhinestone teddy bears and, whatever.
Okay, so we're going to go back in time a little bit. Your upbringing played a big role in your decision to design for a living. Your grandmother taught you to sew. Your mom, the glamorous Yolanda, who many of us remember, had that wonderful, successful bridal salon and spa out in Waltham. And she sold glitzy designer gowns, and she was always dressed to the nines and produced standing room only fashion shows. What was it like growing up with a mother like Yolanda?
My mother, I'm so plain. I only wear rhinestone jewelry, whatever. I think it's just like enough. But I was raised with rhinestones on my cereal, not kidding. My mother would come down the stairs in feather headpieces, and I remember my daughter being 5 or 6 one day, and my mother went to some party at night, and my kid was in her pajamas going to bed, and she said, "Mom, Gigi has on feathers again," and the whole carpet was, full. And the kids were just so used to it. My kid got a lollipop stuck to my mother once with all the feathers were stuck. I mean, the kids just didn't even know it was there. They would just go up and say, I want a juice box, and then they'd have lollipops. And my mother, they were so used to the headdresses and the stuff. But no, I always changed everything she bought me. I cut it apart, I changed it, I added things to it. I remember, I was a kid, and I remember taking feather dusters apart, because we used to all have feather dusters before there was Swiffers. And I would take them apart and use all the feathers and make things with them, because I couldn't find feathers. Now I call New York and get whatever I want, but at the time, I was a kid. I used to rip everything apart. I cut up her handy wipes, I cut up her towels, I cut up her sheet. She'd come home and say, those were the guest towels. And I'm like, I know, but they had this pretty ribbon, and I'd cut the ribbon off of it. And I just always wanted to create. And the first dress I ever made my mother, I was in the 4th grade. My grandmother helped me, and I wrapped feathers all around the dress, and she wore it on the runway. And it was a little crooked, but she still wore it. And she was cool about it. And she always said, this is what this kid wants to do. And she always backed me up. My father used to say, what if you spend all this money sending her to design school and she ends up being a nurse? And my mother would say, this is what this kid wants to do. She's been cutting everything up in the house since she was a little kid, making stuff, so.
Yeah. Now, your sister Linda was a top runway model.
Yep.
Was great, always high in demand, and cover girl. And you called your dad Dan, he even got involved in kind of the fashion end of things, as your MacGyver, the MacGyver of fashion.
My dad can make anything. My father was a contractor. He's still around, but he sold his company a while back, but he's 85. My father, we'd go out for the day and we'd come home and the bathroom was completely torn down and he was like rebuilding it himself. The man can make anything out of anything, and I think that's where I got it. My homework, if I had homework projects to do, my mother said, go ask your father. So I remember in the 4th grade, my project, I needed a cover. He's like, he got some paneling out of the garage. The thing weighed 900 pounds. I had paneling, remember paneling? I had paneling on the top and the bottom with drill holes in it, and he drilled it together. But he was super creative, and he would come up with ways to make anything. And he used to say to me, you don't need, if you have a hanky, you can make a dress. Just figure it out. And I always just ran around and found whatever and figured it out.
And he got you to go to Home Depot?
Oh, yeah. When we first had the first Gypsy dress, we couldn't make this dress day out. So I said, Dad, I don't know what to do. I can't. He says, you need PEX tubing. I'll take you. So now I used to go to Home Depot, and I'm looking for the couture department. And the guy's like, what? And I said, yeah, forget it. It's a joke in my family. But we would always get PEX tubing, and then he'd bring me the cement to put it together. And we used to make the tubes for the dresses because nothing would hold these dresses. This is a small dress, and it's not even really full. We have dresses on the show that are 70 pounds. So my father was really great with that.
What's the, let's see, okay, you apprenticed in noted fashion houses throughout Europe when you were in high school.
15, yeah.
And went off on your own and did that, and then you graduated from FIT with a degree in menswear.
Yeah. I majored in menswear. I never did women's wear my whole life. Never cared to. Only wanted to do men's. Went to school when I was 15 in 6 different countries. My parents at the time, there was a teen tour for fashion, which they don't have anymore, and it's unfortunate. And they paid $66 a month with one of those coupon books for 3 years to send me all over Europe because they were trying to build their business and they didn't have the money. And I said, I really want to go. And there wasn't anyone in Massachusetts going, so they put me with a group in Iowa because you had to have some kind of teacher, with you or whatever. And we worked at Emilio Pucci in Italy and Dior in France. We went to Valecourt on Blue Cooking School for 2 days. We were at Berger Christian and Furs in Sweden and Denmark. George Jensen Silver Forge. It was totally food. It was called Food, Fashion, and Furnishings, and it was an experience. It was insane. And I tell my daughter, of course, because I'm 62 years old, but I tell my daughter we had traveler's checks and our camera with the flash cube, that square flash cube. And I remember my mother giving me the film and because you couldn't get all this stuff. I had my traveler's checks. I was with a class. When you ran out of money, you ran out of money. You had to wait in line to call. My kid goes to Europe now, they're on the phones and they're texting. They don't get it. It was so, we didn't have cash cards. Who gave us a cash machine card? There weren't cash machines. So yeah, I went around all different countries for the whole summer. Amazing experience. Came back I was almost 16 then, and then the next year I moved to New York and went to FIT. And decided then I only wanted menswear, wanted nothing to do with women's wear, walked away from feathers and all that and whatever. And you never know where life takes you. I never even knew what gypsies were, you know.
Okay, so I want to bring up something about the book. So the book, it's almost 4 books in one, I do want to say. It's part biography, it's part business advice.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful portfolio of a lot of original designs. They're extraordinary, beautifully shot and photographed. And it also includes DIY instructions using some of the techniques that you used at the workshop you share in this book, so people can actually add bling to their clothes at home.
Yeah, I mean, people ask us, how do you put it on? How do you know, but you need different kinds of glues. I mean, that's super experience, another whole thing, but people do want to do their baseball cap or their sandals or whatever. And so they would ask us all the time, and people would come visit from different countries and watch the girls. And I said, well, let's just give them instructions that they can take. Once you learn the basics, you can take it. It's like anything. You just keep growing with it. And, you know, so that's why we put some instructions. But it's really about a small business and what it's like to start and how hard it is. And you know, I fell a million times. You just get back up and you just rebuild. That's all. I mean, it's tough. You know, the economy goes high and low. You have to change what you do. When I started in men's, and then I went into, somebody hired me in Italy, which is another story, but that's how I ended up in women's. They just saw my sister had something on that I wore, and the guy called and he said, would you leave your job and go to Italy like Friday? And I said, well, I got to give him a 2-week notice. I was with a menswear company then, and you never know where it takes you, you know. And I went, I said, well, I'm 20 years old, 21, and why not? Don't have kids, got a small mortgage. At the time, I had bought a small apartment, and I went, and then I ended up in this, you know, and then the Gypsies found me, and it just evolved, you know. But I think I tell kids today, I say, don't be so, you never know where it's going to take you. So you might find something. Fashion is not just design. I mean, there's stylists, there's photography, there's makeup, there's so many things that have to do to make fashion. And fashion is a sociological business, you know? I mean, there's so many, you can look at certain people, tell where they live from fashion, you can tell their income, you can tell, there's so many things. And I used to have the best sociology teacher at FIT, and he taught us so much. It was unbelievable. And so it's selling. You need to sell. If you can't sell and you're a fashion designer, you might as well just call it an expensive hobby, because if you can't take that off that piece of paper and turn that into money, it's nothing. It's zero. It's a hobby, because it's a business. Fashion is a business. And I have to turn money to pay these girls and keep the company going. It's fun, yeah, but I have my days. It's a rough thing.
I just want to talk about your clientele involved. We talked about the Gypsies. You have a huge fan base and clientele of Gypsies, the Romanian and the Irish travelers.
Yeah.
And then you have non-Gypsies, and you basically cover the gamut. So you do baptism dresses, quinceañeras, proms, mother of the bride. There's nothing, as I said before, no job you've ever turned down.
I like the diversity of it. I mean, I just did a swim team. You have to use waterproof glue. It's cool.
The wrestler.
Ice skaters, ballroom. We've done a few Irish step dancing dresses. What else?
Lyrical dancers.
We had the wrestler. That was cool. Lyrical dance we get a lot of. Yeah, people call us from everywhere for everything. Bridal, prom. You know, I do a lot of bas mitzvah. And it's funny, the bas mitzvah crowd, because I was in that business for a long time. When I was like 20-something years old, I started my own company, even though I was freelancing 3 jobs trying to raise the money to buy the material to start the company. And I was doing a trade show in my 20s, and this Jewish woman from Michigan came up to me and she said, honey, if you can take this 7 to 14 stuff and just grow it up into a preteen, you would have a market that doesn't even exist. So she helped me, and she flew me to Birmingham, Michigan, and she said, I've got the clientele for you, and I started to work for them, and then she told someone in Chicago, who told somebody in Florida, who told, so all these Jewish areas were picking me up to do this, and they taught me what an Oneg Shabbat was, and I didn't know anything I didn't even know what a yarmulke was. I mean, I had to learn all these different services for B'nai Mitzvah and all this. And then I realized the religious kids were more like 12 years old, and the kids that weren't so religious were 13, and I had to make dresses for different, and I get a huge religious Jewish crowd in Chicago that I work for, so they have to be more covered, and they have a hard time to find clothes. So I had to learn all these things. Well, then the Greeks came after me, and then I started learning christening, and then I learned Armenian christenings, and once you do one, someone tells someone who tells someone who tells someone, and now you have all these businesses in one pot. And so I end up doing all the selling because I'm the only one who really knows what people need. You know, there's different services, and you know, it's just, I really enjoy the diversity of jumping from bas mitzvah dresses to a wrestler, which is great. And then tomorrow we'll be doing christening dresses, or you know.
The mermaid.
The mermaid, oh my God, that was the craziest. So this woman writes us this email, and she said she wants a mermaid tail. So I look at TC and I said, be polite, answer her, give her a price, but this is crazy. No one's gonna buy a completely encrusted rhinestone mermaid tail. Fine. So, P.S., she says, I want it. I said, it's incredible. It's like nuts. It's just too much money. And I said, I never made a mermaid tail. What could I make a mermaid tail? I'll figure it out. So, the money was good. So I said, well, I can fit in the budget. I'll buy, she was a 3X, by the way. I had to buy a 3X mermaid tail, an inexpensive one, because I needed the pattern, because the fin has to fit. They have this fin that they wear that has to fit inside this. So I got her shoe size and everything. I order her fins. I'm fitting it in. My girls took it, made a pattern out of it. It was crazy. She belonged to the Mer Club. She does birthday parties. She spent a ton of money on this thing. I mean, it was amazing. But I thought, if I can make this, I can make a mermaid tail. I can make anything. So we made a mermaid tail, but it was kind of, I think you asked where she lived, and she said the Atlantic Ocean or something. I'm like, okay, right. But she was a cool, I mean, she was a doll. I mean, she was the nicest woman, and she just really was into this group, and they buy mermaid tails. I'm like, okay. I was like, you know.
Now, okay, the holidays are coming around, you know, the corner, and of course, this would make a great gift. What's your number one selling item that you normally sell?
These everyday glasses. People, I mean, they come in 80 colors, but people ask us to make them with the initial. People ask us to make them floral, a leopard, or whatever. But I get fans that call and say, hey, my mother's 70-something, she loves those glasses, and I'll buy them for Mother's Day or Christmas or whatever. We make glasses constantly. I mean, we need the strength, but people call it in.
So, and recently, not recently, but you actually have a limited edition porcelain figurine.
Mm-hmm.
You were contacted by a porcelain company, prestigious house over in the UK, to create one of your gypsy dresses. Yeah, so they approached us, and they produced this, Compton and Woodhouse produced this gorgeous porcelain figurine of one of our dresses. And I said, well, if you're going to make a porcelain figurine that's got my name on it, it's got to have crystals. So they put crystals in the dress, and you know, that's been selling pretty well. It's a great gift.
That's a great gift idea too, yeah, that's been selling.
And why Swarovski crystals? Why do you use those?
They have the most facets. So when you go into a room, they literally hit the light and go crazy. These are 24 karat gold. These are the most expensive ones, but I wore them tonight because I had gold on. But I must have 35, 40 pairs of glasses in every color. I just think, I don't think for somebody to do a ton of work and then they do it and it's in junky stone, like why bother? If you're gonna do the work, you might as well use the best product, and they do have the best product. Yeah.
Well, do we want to take some questions from the audience at this
Yeah,
point in
sure.
time? What's up?
Hi, Renato, what's up?
Can you tell me how much this jacket up here weighs? And I'm interested to understand how many crystals are on that jacket.
Jacket is 73,000 crystals. Put on one by one, plus jewels, which I don't even remember how many jewels were on it. The jacket was $16,000. It was made for a gypsy car party. I know that sounds crazy. When gypsies in the South get a car, which they're 15 because South, they get their licenses earlier, they buy a car and then they get a jacket in the color of the car. So mostly they're usually black and silver, red, car colors. And the kids will stand next to the car to be put on Instagram. Not kidding. So they'll call and they'll say it's a car party. And usually if there's a car party, there's like 6 that weekend because everybody copies each other and then they compete. And it's all us that it's all Sandra Celli, so it's like, make my son the best. Well, I'm trying, but it's hard because everybody's buying it from us and,
Our party, 87 shirts you had to make or something like that?
That was the worst year. So one year they decided, everyone in the neighborhood in this village decided to have a car party at the same time. There had to be 16, 17 boys. We worked like our rear ends off. Well, anyway, everyone in the neighborhood decided they would wear the colors of the cars. Well, cars are red, silver, black, mostly, some blue, okay? The most common color is white. Every kid was calling for a red, black, and silver top. I had 87 red, black, and silver tops that had to be different. Well, the first 15 or 20, no big deal, slashed it up, put fringe on it, When we got to like 30, 40, we were like, cut a hole in it, I don't know. Everybody wanted to be different. Everybody, one sleeve. We had one shoulder, we had halters. Everybody wanted to be different but similar. And it's hard because they're all paying the same money. You want to make everybody unique, but they were all the same color. And I'm like, does anyone want to buy a green car? I was like, please, it was too much.
Any other questions?
So the main thing is, I was going to say, is that the gypsies found me, which is mostly the most question I think I get on Facebook, right? Or when I was a young designer and I was a kid and I got out of school and I started doing women's wear for this guy that I was traveling around with and doing all this freelance work. So I was just a kid, I was like 21, 22. He was taking me to Hong Kong and Belgium and Italy, and it was a good experience. And in those days, we didn't have like email and FedEx, and you had to go to Hong Kong to work. You couldn't, there was no remote way of talking to anybody to explain what you needed. So I would fly around and do all of this. And then at the same time, I was trying to build my company, so I started making a few little sweaters, baby sweaters, that were like, in those days, $200-300 retail. They were beautiful, they had crystal on them. And Neiman Marcus picked me up, and then Saks picked me up, then Bloomingdale's picked me up, and my company was growing. And Gypsy's like anything status. So at the time, all those stores were running ads in Harper's Bazaar and Neiman, Neiman's was running ads, Sandra Celli for Neiman's and whatever. And I don't even think I was 23. And the Gypsies went to Neiman's and they stole my number out of the Rolodex, which, if you remember Rolodex, so it was on the desk. So all these people started calling me up, and they all lived in the same town in Chicago, in Coal City, Illinois. Never even heard of it. So one of the stores that I worked for and shipped in Chicago, I was a kid. I called her up and I said, Merle, I don't understand. Where's Coal City, Illinois? Everybody's on the same street, and they're all stores. And she said, honey, you're not shipping stores. You're shipping gypsies. I said, what's a gypsy? She says, you're shipping a trailer park, and they're lying to you and telling you they're stores. Well, I started to panic. They don't have tax numbers. And then, I was panicked. I was like a kid, and she said, oh, honey, don't worry. She said, they love you. Just tell them to come clean with you and tell them they have to pay retail. So I did. I said, you guys are trying to get me wholesale, telling me you're stores, and you can't do that. I said, you don't have tax numbers. You're going to have to pay retail. And they said, fine. And then before you know it, they told people in Augusta, Georgia, and Georgia told, Oklahoma and Oklahoma. And it was just, and I didn't realize all these clans were all connected because I didn't even know what a gypsy was. And now in my phone, I have 4,400 of them. And I knew who everybody is. And there's way more than that. I have 4,400 numbers. So TC will get the phone and she'll say, it's Kathy. And I said, if you don't tell me the kid's name, I don't know who it's, because they name their kids like crazy, like Palace, Wealth, Embassy, anything money. I even have a kid named Money. I have Money Riley. Anything statusy, they name their kids. Like I have a new kid coming, a new baby, Posh. I'm trying to think. I have crazy names. Yeah, we have lots of Mercedes. Yeah, we have a Celine and Dion twins. We have these crazy names. So if she says Cat, I put it in my phone. I'll put Kathy Celine / Dion, and I don't know which Kathy it is. So she'll get, and I know their voices like that. I know who everybody is. And now I've been doing it for so many years for them. I'm on the 3rd generation because the grandmothers are 38. You know, and I'm like the old, you know, they're like, you're 62 and you're still doing it. You know, I'm like, yeah.
You know what? I just want to bring up one more thing before we go. I've worked with you, as I said, for 6 years, and you have a huge heart. You're incredibly generous, and you do a lot of work for our veterans.
Yes.
She normally does some brilliant design that she will donate, you know, so they'll raise money for our troops, which is wonderful. And the other thing you do, which is transformative in the lives of certain people, is you work with a lot of children that have body defects. And they come to you for their very first prom dress or just to make them wear a princess dress and make them feel better, and it's transformative. It brings tears to your eyes.
We had a customer years ago how it started when she had scoliosis, actually so severe that the kid was literally on an angle. One arm was about this big, one arm was normal. I mean, it was just so bad. So her mother happened to call me. I didn't have the show then or anything. She just heard about me through some people, and they were from Belmont. And she called me and she said, my daughter is the Elephant Man. And I said, oh, come on. She says, no, seriously. She says, I've taken her everywhere. Nobody will make my kid a prom dress. They just don't want to deal with the pattern work. So I said, well, bring her over, whatever. Pretty little girl, so cute. She was about 14 or 15, going to like a prom with an older boy. And so it was really hard. And so I put the zipper up the side because her back was like this. And then I made the hem real funky cute, and it was a little chiffon dress, burgundy, I still remember it. And then she wanted off the shoulder, and I thought, oh God, I don't want to draw a line around her shoulders. It's like the worst, because it's like, well, we did it. She was so happy. The kid had the best personality ever. She has gone through so many surgeries, and when she was about maybe 18 or 19, they called me to the front desk, and I had known her there then for 5 or 6 years, and they said, Erin's at the front desk, and I said, really? I'm not making her anything anymore. She's in college. Like, she doesn't need me, you know? So I went to the desk, and she said, Sandy, I'm wearing stripes, and I can actually, the doctors will let me drive, and she said I could never wear stripes. She had all this surgery. She looked great. I mean, her body was still deformed to a point, but at least she looked normal, you know, in one sense. Anyway, Erin has now become a pediatrician. She went to Yale Medical School. She's had a few miscarriages, but she finally has 2 children. So when she got married, nobody would fix her wedding gown because same problem. So she called me and she said, San, I need somebody to fix this wedding gown and move the zipper to the side because it looks like this down the back. I said, no problem, and she came over. But I've been really friends with them for a long time, and they have sent me so many kids with those kind of problems. And it's a challenge, but it is the most rewarding to see those kids when they can't find something, or you get kids with cancer and their necks are all blown up and having a bar mitzvah and the kid's in a wheelchair and they can't get a dress that fits their body, or you have to sew the bow to the wig because the kid has no hair. I mean, it's just, it's more rewarding than these crazies that are so materialistic and their whole life revolves around clothes. And I say to them, you're not losing an arm, you're not losing your house, you have a job. There are people, stop worrying about if the dress matches the frickin' color of the tablecloth. Get over it. Get over it. It's a dress. Throw it in the trash, cut another one. I mean, there's crazy. I mean, we've got people sleeping in foxholes. Don't we care about this? What about the mothers who don't know where their sons are? But I deal with a bubble. And my customers live in a bubble. And all they think about is materialism. No one cares what Chanel bag you had last week. It doesn't matter. But you can't, I live with the Gypsies, and this is how they are, and this is how they live. But we find it, both of us love the veterans, and we get calls from little girls all the time that see the show and can't wait to get a princess dress someday, and they write us letters, and my dad's, you know, overseas or whatever, and we just wrap up the dress, and she makes sure first it's real, because TV, I can't tell you how many crazy requests we get. But we've packed up dresses plenty of times with a wand and a crown and just thrown it in the mail and said, take it. Because I've got dresses we would close out at the end of the season anyway. And to that kid, I know their parents are never gonna, their mothers are working 3 jobs while the father's overseas. Where are they gonna get the money for this dress? I mean, we've got dresses, what are we gonna do with them? I would rather give it away than have some crazy come into my office and start nickel and diming me to get it at a discount. They can have it. Don't care.
That's Sandra Celli.
I don't care. Don't care.
So I think we're going to close on that note. And I'm a huge friend, and a huge supporter. She's incredibly creative. So your next big event, consider custom.
Yeah, we have a lot of simple dresses. My daughter's very simple. She just got married to a plain A-line dress. She said there would be no gypsy stuff at my wedding, and there wasn't. But we do everything, honestly. I mean, I've had Dana Hall kids come for 8th grade graduation and want a navy wool A-line dress, and we make it. And it's quality, and it's beautiful, and it's got pretty buttons down the back. It's got style to it, but it's nothing like this.
Best woman in the business. She's a force in fashion. And thanks for coming, thanks for listening. If you pick up a copy of the book, I just have to mention that you get a special discount on the Sandra Celli Bling kits, so you can learn to bling at home. And hope there's bling in your future. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
You did a great job.
Thank you.